All right. Uh, all right. Welcome to the Render Roast, everyone. I'm Joey, and yeah, we've got some Render Roast things first. Got a list here. First of all, I want to know: do you guys enjoy using YouTube for the streams? Not just this one, but I mean all the streams with Derek and everyone. Before we had a Twitch account, I screwed up. I used a burner phone number to authenticate it, then lost the phone number and changed the password. Long story short, lost access to the Twitch account. Many contacts with Twitch since, and they won't restore it. It's with Authy that I have the problems that are telling me to go to them, and Authy won't do anything about it unless I can remember the phone number. Can't. It was a burner phone number. My mistake. So I'm interested to see if we had, I think it was over 500 Twitch followers, and in the year that we've done it, and that was only a few months, we had 500 on there, and we've been doing it on YouTube for over a year, and we've got 76 right now. So if it's easier to watch these streams on Twitch, if it buffers less on Twitch or whatever, it might be worth making a new account and trying to move it back over. I'd like to hear what you guys think on that. It's something I need to discuss with Derek especially, and with Ryber as well. Competition. A topic that I always seem to cover, and basically I've been promising, as long as I've been roasting for about over a year and a half now, that the competition was going to get an update, and I failed to update it. So, to keep going with the trend I've been going with, tomorrow we're going to be changing the rules up after the voting. It won't apply to this competition, but it will apply to next week's competition. The rules are going to change. Certainly, we've got the rules all written out. They're going to be implemented for next week's competition. We're also going to try to implement new prizes and a new reward system. A new way of distributing the prizes. That's a little bit cleaner than what we're doing right now. As you know, if you're a Superior Victor, you have to message me, and then I send you a download link to the prizes. It's just messy. So we're going to try to do a new system as well, but I want to get new prizes implemented first. The problem is we can't really decide what prizes we want to get for the competition. We've already got one lined up because JC offered a prize for it, and we got nothing. Kevin, if you won, you have to message me, and you'll get 2 prizes. Yes, it's the automatic walk cycle add-on, and there is the hard ops, but hard ops is super outdated, and we're not actually updating the prizes. That's something I want to change with the next string of prizes. I want to contact the seller of the prizes. Basically, I'll be buying one license on Blender Market, and with the licensing that Blender has, you can redistribute them. The problem is I don't like doing that without the creator's permission. So what I'll be asking the creators, and I have to get they're okay with it, is can I buy one license and then redistribute that every other week? That's another thing. The competition is going to be every other week. It'll be running on 2-week cycles rather than 1-week cycle. It'll give people a little bit more time to engage in it. They'll be able to work weekends if they work all week like I do. You'll be able to work all weekend on it and have a little bit more free time to work on the competition entry. So hopefully that'll inspire a little bit more creativity in the entries, and hopefully we'll get a few more entries like that. But yeah, if anyone has suggestions for prizes for us to check out on the Blender Market, mostly looking at add-ons and things that we can redistribute, maybe texture packs, lighting packs, or asset packs. So can I wait for the newer version, or would I get you're gonna get the older, Kevin? I'm sorry. We're gonna be restarting all the Superior Victors. You'll lose the role for Superior Victor, and then you'll lose the Superior Victor role, and we'll start over from there. Sick mic, thank you. I think, unless it's too loud, too quiet, or my luck muted. So we'll restart the roll, and it's just gonna be a bit more fair, because now next week anyone who wins, and I guess we'll end up doing anyone who wins this week will also get whatever prizes if they're implemented tomorrow. But I still have to contact all the creators. I was going to try and do that today, get some add-ons lined up and contact the creators, but alas, I had to work all day today. So I'm way underprepared for all this. What's the name of you on Discord? It is Joe #1759, also Espresso Joe. I'm one of 2 admins, not including Google. Anyway, moving on. List. Alright, I guess that's it. On to the critique. I do want to note I am not a professional artist. I don't work in the industry. All my critiques are going to be subjective, based on my opinion. Take them with a grain of salt. I'm just giving my advice on what I think personally would make the scene or render look better. But it is just my opinion, so take it for what it's worth. Alright, so the first render we have here is by HP2009 on Discord. And first off, I just really like the lighting from this. I'm not sure, I guess this is sort of an abstract render. I'm not sure what it's supposed to be technically. It kind of reminds me of like a sci-fi corridor sort of thing, like almost Transformers, like in their eye or something. I'm not sure. It's very sci-fi feeling to me, but at the same time, like really gritty and grungy. And I like the blue light and how it contrasts so well with the warmth and cold. As far as critique, I feel like the edges out here could be a little bit darker. Maybe just adjusting the contrast in total. Pull this out. Just bringing the contrast up a little bit. Not too much though, I guess, because I mean you've already done a really good job with this. I feel like there's a little bit of room right here that you could add maybe a silhouette of a person into it as well. If reminds me of some sci-fi engine turbine thing. Yeah, it definitely looks like it should be spinning or something. But I'm not really sure if it has a purpose or if it's just more of an abstract render. Drachenschild. Yeah, let's see. I definitely should have prepped for this a little bit more. Do that for now. Wonder if these corners, the hardness on this a little bit. Just imagining a bit more vignette on this, because once it gets out on these corners, the light seems to be dulled down quite a bit. So rather than using an extra vignette, darkening those corners up a little bit more, because they sort of stand out to me. My eye is coming out here, but it's kind of getting lost out in this. As I said before, I think a silhouette of a person could work in there, or something to keep your eye, but it would lose some of the abstract feeling it has by doing that, by making it a little bit into more of a scene. Let's see, this here is all tiled, which, yes, it's a look you're going for, but maybe add some sort of variation to it, maybe some vines or something in here, some sort of growth to break it up a little bit. Let's see. It's really hard to say on something like this, because you execute it really, really well, I think. being underprepared for this is really gonna bite me. So not knowing what my hotkeys are on here. Yeah, it's just too hard to say on this for me. I would try to break the competitiveness up a little bit with some sort of vine or something like that. Maybe a little bit of depth of field on this, and maybe you already have some, because this here seems a bit more out of focus as opposed to this, which, given that this is where your eye automatically just this is your focal point, maybe have this a bit blurrier and pull your eye towards that. And again, I imagine like some sort of silhouette in here. If it's like an eye, like a Transformer's eye or something, maybe it's something he's looking at, and it's a reflection, or give it a little bit more story with what this actually is. Unless you're just going for strictly abstract field, then I feel like you've nailed it. But it's really it's an overdone look with just the cold and warm contrast, and maybe something to break it up a little bit. Not entirely helpful critique, I know. I really don't know what to say about this. This is a really amazing looking piece. It really just works. It is an overdone look with the straight up contrast between yellow and blue, but it's overdone for a reason. It's a good look, and it turns out really well. And you've put a lot of effort into details on this, and it shows. It looks great. Alright, next render. This one is by Blockoffice, and I am definitely pronouncing that wrong. Yep. Alright. Alright, so this here, the first thing that stands out to me is the complete and utter lack of a background. Some stars, a galaxy sort of look would really improve this a lot. Some more lighting, maybe putting the sun. If you did like an eclipse look, it could really turn out well. Putting the sun right behind it, and then having a nice glow coming off the moon here. And you have to have a space looking background on it. It's really not gonna work without one, in my opinion. They did a great job on detail and everything. It looks really realistic. I assume you used a map probably from NASA for the texture, and it did something not everyone does. The detail in the bumps here, is that mesh displacement, or is that, I mean, that would have to be mesh displacement right there, unless I don't think parallax will show up on the edges still like that. So that looks really good from that standpoint. Adaptive, okay, yeah, you're probably right, Kevin. Yeah, that's a great attention to detail there, but I do notice these craters look a little bit flat here. But again, that can be part of the lighting, and your lighting is rather bland here. It looks like you have an area light coming from this direction, but that's about all the lighting you have. If you brought a light in from here to give it a nice rim light, or did the eclipse look and a nice space background, maybe they all look too extreme. Yeah, they very sharp shadows, and yet I will learn how to use Photoshop one of these days. Yeah, these shadows are very, very sharp, but these ones here quite soft. It's a bit strange, actually. It's almost like the shadows were in the texture. How strong the bump? I don't know that bumpiness. Yeah, I don't know if it's too bumpy for the moon. Haven't spent a lot of time on the moon personally. Try to avoid it. But really what it comes down to is this. I think is the lighting needs improvement. It's very simplistic lighting. Putting the sun behind it, like so, just so it eclipses that part of it. And your sun would just have to be at a ball with the emission, and you'd have to put in a lot of glare on it. There's plenty of tutorials on how to do atmosphere on plants and stuff to make the eclipse look. So, the scale of the moon, this would be several hundred kilometers. Yeah, I don't know enough about space and all that to say. But from a visual standpoint, not knowing anything about space, I would do something with the lighting a bit more creative, because this here, I could see this maybe if you're just trying to show surface of a planet or something, but from an artistic standpoint, it's not all that creative. You basically used a photo scan planet, so to speak, and lighting is really all you have to go on here. Now, if you did a little bit of a story, maybe there's a rocket coming in here to land on it, or maybe you model a NASA spaceship or a UFO or something like that. Just something to give us a bit of interest. Because right now I feel like it's lacking that. But the two biggest things I would add to it is I would add either the sun and really there's no exceptions to the background. You've got to do something with space here. Add some stars at the very least. I wouldn't go with the typical picture of stars, just the black and white specks. Those really don't look good, but be careful to match your lighting to whatever background you use. Like if you use a picture of the nebula or something, your lighting's going to have to match that. It's going to have to merge well with that. See if it's okay. Yeah. Alright. Next render. Got 16 or more so far, so you need to move through this quickly, and hopefully I'll say something that is interesting at some point. Alright, this in here is from Lime from Discord. Alright. Really good shape on this. The shaping of all the armor, although I do notice you're missing pecs on the breastplate here, which is something that typically in the armor, in this sort of style, typically you do see that. I don't know if it was in actual armor or not, and maybe you had a very specific reference for this armor, but the lack of pecs does sort of stand out to me. Is it's sort of a human anchor point compromise. To be honest, I don't know. I just think that's something it needs to have, but that's my opinion. Textures are pretty good, but there's way too many scratches, and they're not where scratches would be. It looks like you just overlaid a scratch texture map on this and just tiled it all over it, but didn't actually bother. This is something you need to paint these details in. Think about this guy's life and where the most wear and tear on his armor is going to come from. So Has this guy seen a lot of battle? What kind of a soldier is he? What age is he? How many battles has he fought in? Was he victorious, or is this the armor of a dead soldier? Yeah, scratch direction also matters, but you really need to have a mindset on what is this armor, like who wore this armor? What did they do? Maybe he was in a big Roman battle at some point, and he died in battle. So how did he die? Did he get a spear through the chest? Maybe there's a hole in his armor here. Maybe he had his head cut off, but in battle he was constantly being hit with sword blades coming right down on this shoulder, or things that would actually cause the scratches and wear and tear. And then how is the armor stored when he took it off? Was it stored 100 breastplates? This is all the king's armor, and they're all stored in the same place, maybe, and the breastplates all line up with each other. So the high points, like the nose on here, this all started wearing down where it was being pushed against other armor just to take off that finish on it. Places like this, maybe there's not scratches, especially like right here. That means the blade would have to contort perfectly with that little extrusion there on the side. However, places like this would likely see more wear and tear, no matter where you put it. Places like this, it's constantly in contact with your shoulder. You're going to be seeing it being the metal there is going to get polished from your clothing rubbing up against it at all times. His head, it's probably maybe it's hot where he's at, and the sweat. What would that do to the material, or what would that do to the metal here? Wearing the helmet for years and years with all that sweat, would that start create oxidization in the metal, and would it rust? And where would it rust at? How would it start deteriorating the metal? Things like that. If there's inside. All right, Kevin, you're going into a lot of detail on that. Well, punctual scratches. Yeah, that's another good point, though, is what kind of weapons was he using? Is this a time when swords were all the rage, or was it medieval times, and they had maces and stuff, and did he get hit in the chest with a mace, and is there like a little spike pattern on chest plate where he got hit in the chest and it bent the metal in, and there's little punctures where the mace didn't completely penetrate the steel, but it did dent it enough. There's much as an antique, ages people of the armor and cleaning it. Well, yeah, is this a restored piece, or is this a picture of it when it was put up right after battle? I mean, the inside of this, I think after all the wearing it for so long against cotton clothing and stuff, it would have got rubbed to a silver finish, probably by the clothing. The hair up here is just way too perfect. I would imagine after this has been in battle for a long time, these are probably long horse hairs or something. They're probably at this point starting to fray out a bit, and not as many left as there once was. I mean, clearly this has been scratched up a lot, so it's been in battle. It's been in a lot of heavy use for a long time. How old was this guy? How many battles? It all goes back to that. But yeah, he died in battle. Was ripped in a piece. God, yeah. Yeah, I would definitely start tearing this up, because this looks like a brand new helmet, although questionable color. I don't know why that's green, but maybe that's the military. That's their flag's color. But everything else has these very consistent scratches on it. So yeah, I'd paint those scratches in by hand, or if you want, you can go into Substance Painter if you have that, and paint a mask for the scratches and do a thinner scratches. The big scratches I would place by hand, but I would do small little cuts and scratches and add polish and paint that all in Painter. Just paint a mask for it and then overlay that maybe. You can also do that in Blender if you're texture painting in Blender. It's just a bit trickier process. But yeah, moving on, the lighting and stuff. Did a good job with the rim light, but I would experiment with a bit more drastic lighting. I would love to paint over this if I knew how to properly use Photoshop. Something I should probably learn, being a 3D artist. But I would try. I think his name's. He probably doesn't pronounce it with a J, but I think it's Julian Casper. He has some really amazing lighting that he uses on all his sculpts. He is not a musician. Yeah. He does some really amazing lighting, but he makes use of very drastic colors. He'll put an accent color like this on the rim, and I really love how it can bring a scene to life like this. I feel like not necessarily green in this. I would actually go for an orange because you already started going for it. But if you went for a really drastic color like this to add an accent, and probably coming up from this angle, I think it could really help this out a lot, in my opinion. A bit quieter would be nice. Not a problem. So yeah, I would take some reference from Julian Casper's sculpts. He does sculpts all the time. He was always active in Sculpt January as well, so he's got a bunch of fresh sculpts, I'm sure, for you to look at. But he always does really amazing lighting, and they're always pretty similar. So you can learn a lot from his lighting setups, and I would recommend referencing those for this. I believe CG Cookie also made a video on replicating his lighting setup, so you can check that out as well. And that was an Eevee. So you could, I don't know if you're doing this in Eevee or Cycles, but you could do it in either. Pretty interchangeable there. I would like to say you did a fantastic job on the markings, the dog, or is that? It's kind of hard to tell. It could either be a dog or a cat. I'm gonna go with a cat, like a mountain lion or something. Kind of looks like Suzanne here, but I do appreciate the time that you put into making this feel like it actually belongs to a very particular group of soldiers, or a side here. It looks really cool to see. Romans like lions. Yeah, I don't know if this is Roman or based on Lannister family. I don't know, but it looks cool seeing those emblems on there. I'm just embarrassing myself for my lack of knight knowledge, but moving on. Alright, so next render is my new flight. Alright. This is interesting. It's a bit hard to comprehend here. So, two things I can make out is the plant and the hand. But this kind of looks like water coming out of a rock. So the hand looks really good, and the plant looks pretty good as well. You could use some textures on the base here, but I think it's a plant, not a tree. So I would have gone with the green with some subsurface scattering. Your depth of field could be working against you here, and it's not blurring out the HDRI that's used in the background. I would add another rock up there to hide the HDRI, because it's a bit hard to see. Is he ripping it out or planting it? I don't know. Uncanny Valley. It's a bit hard to see what's going on here, to be honest. The pose is actually pretty good. It definitely looks like he's either, if he's ripping it out, I would maybe pull the pinky and your ring finger in a little bit more and put a tension, put his fingers at the base of it, and try to get some tension going on there. Like it's taking a little bit to pull it out, but it kind of looks like he's delicately placing it the way it is now. The water is always so hard to interact with, and you did have. It looks like his pinky's just barely in the water, and I'm seeing the water come up on the side here, and it is different, but over here that just doesn't look too great, and the water is not actually interacting with anything. It's just a displacement map on top. So if you're gonna do that, you really need to sculpt the water and be careful about letting things peek through the water. It's really hard to make that look realistic. Let's see. This whole bit here, this rock, all of them have sort of strange textures that don't actually end up looking like rocks. I would switch them out. I would actually try to photo scan some rocks or get some online and use those. Yeah, looks like it's been edited. Possibly, if that's a picture in there, it's pretty impressive. I don't know. I mean, it does have those edges. Could be, and that would explain that seam there. You put okay. Yep, I think you're right about that. I think that's the seam where he lassoed it to put that behind and keep that in front. Oh, come on, man. It's actually not bad though. I thought it was like maybe a 3D scan of a hand or something. That's not half bad, and that explains why that's noise back here where the hair is, because you can't magic wand that out. That's actually pretty disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. That was it's pretty impressive, and until you had to say that. I mean, it's pretty impressive that he did that with a picture, but all right. Well, it's harder to critique now, because those are things that I thought was pretty good about the. Dang, I too just missed it. Yeah. Man, he got the lighting down though. He really got that lighting perfectly nailed. So it looks like that hand is in that scene lighting wise. That's spot on. Reflection wise, the water, I feel like the water, there's really nothing. It's so weird. Like, I can't figure out what's going on with this render though. Let's grab some. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to really have heavy shadow. Well, there is shadow, though. Right there's a shadow from... Tree... No shadows done on a hand using... Oh, yeah, you can hear the dog. I'm gonna have to get a dial-up sound effect. Just play it every 3 seconds, because that's about how my brain's running right now. Alright. If you have a vision with this goal that you're going for, try to think of a clearer way to convey it. I really wish I knew what was going on here. Maybe this guy's planting a tree. Okay, then you're on a good start. Okay, I would, unless you particularly want him to be planting a tree on a rock in the water, I would take the water out. I would take the rocks out and put it in dirt. If he's pulling a plant out, again, I'd switch up the background. It doesn't really match with the plant being pulled. A plant doesn't grow in a rock. Now, if you want the plant to be in a rock, it needs to have a crevice there. You need to see that there's a crevice. Also, as a plant or a tree, if it's a plant, then change the stem to green, not gray. If it's a tree, then get a bark texture. You can use textures.com. They have fantastic textures on there, and put that on there. Now UVs can be a little bit tricky depending on what tree generator you used. If it was a sapling generator, built with Blender, I think that does have basic UVs built into it. I would also recommend a Grove if you can afford that, or there's another one. It was like Modular Tree or something. It was another free tree add-on. It was really good and it had UVs in it. Understand without a problem, but yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's really just you can't figure out what's going on in this render. He's either planting or pulling a plant or a tree out of a rock and water, and then the background is industrial. It looks like it's taken in a Home Depot or something. So it kind of makes this look like this is a water display sort of thing, a water feature, and maybe he's pulling a weed out. It's just too hard, too much guesswork. But on that note, you did a fantastic job lighting the scene to match with that hand. That is really, really good work. You could clone over that seam and cover that up just fine. The hand, it looks really good. It really looks like it's part of that scene. Yeah, you could do some shadows and stuff, but take it back into Photoshop after you've done this and go over it again. I'm not, like, there's another thing that stands out to me up here. It looks like where you cut across and you blurred this but not this. Unless you actually put this together in Blender, which that just looks like a headache to begin with. But if that's the case, I'd take off the depth of field. I'd really just do that in Photoshop and use render layers, and then take it from Blender, all the render layers, export those out, and then take them into Photoshop and work a little magic in there. Leaves growing clumps. Yeah, there's things with the plant. Whatever plant you're trying to mimic, you should look up images and actually try to get the closest thing. I know the sapling generator in Blender, it's not that great for making plants and trees and stuff. You might want to try just modeling it out and getting as close to whatever kind of plant you're making to make it a bit more recognizable. But that said, all in all, it's a good start. I really like what you did with the hand and the lighting, but the story is lacking here. So you fix that, you make it a bit easier to comprehend what's going on, and I think you can really have a good scene going on here. Alright, next one is from Drakenseal, whatever. Drakenseal. I assume that's pronounced like German would. I presume that's Germanish name, European, right? Don't hate me. I need to stop alt tabbing because it's going on that monitor. Whatever. German land, yeah. Wait, is that what? That's not what draw. That'd be what's German land? Who would be so disappointed in me right now? Alright. That's German, yes. Alright. Dragon Soul Translate. Okay. That's interesting. Anyway. I had a lot of critique for this back when he posted it, I believe, in competition. But it's all gone now. So I'll stick with the basics. First things first, the textures on that are going cross grain. And they're tiling, and it's the same texture. The textures on all this is a little bit bland. Okay, I should start out with things I like. I appreciate all the props underground that you actually modeled. You didn't just use a texture of leaves, although the moss looks like texture. You put actual modeled leaves, underground particles and stuff, and some shrubs. And that part looks pretty good. The vines creeping up the tree look okay, but the stems on ivy, I can't remember what kind of ivy this is, but we used to have it growing up a tree on the side of our house, has two things different about it. One, the stems actually get quite thick. This here, given the leaves and stuff, these branches or stems or whatever you want to call them, are a very woody texture. They're basically saplings. They're more of a vine and less of a plant stem, and they've got a bark on them and everything. But they're also very hairy. They've got like little tiny roots that grip into the tree and keep it connected to the side of a tree very well, much like poison ivy does when it gets older. It just covered in it. Less so than poison ivy though, except on the base of it. And those hairs vary in thickness. They can be like a 16th inch thick at the base, and then as it gets higher, there's less of them, and they're thinner. But they grip into the tree, and they can go out several inches too, as I recall. But they help keep it connected to the tree. But the main vines on there, wow. The main vines are actually quite thick. I would say 1/4 inch to 1/8 of an inch thick on this. And they would have a bark color to them, a grayish brown. Oh, that's your render, Kevin. Okay. Let's see. This door here, I like that this is all wood. But there is a problem with it. There's no contrast here. My window actually gravitates to the window here automatically instead of the door. And typically you do want the eye to go immediately to the door on something like this. So you got some different little lights here. That's nice. And can help bring your eye towards the door. But what I would do with this, actually, is I might make this a night scene. And open the door up a little bit, have some yellow light coming from in there. There's just more brown behind these red curtains. Now red is a pretty good color as a general rule for curtains and houses and stuff. But given that everything here is an off red, basically brown and green, you might want to contrast that with some blue or something for the curtains. Not necessarily, just something made to try it out and see if that works for you. But yeah, I would try a night scene with this. Maybe some moonlight coming on this side, a shadow, very soft moonlight coming from that side, and then open the door up a little bit and have some strong yellow light coming from the inside of the tree there, showing out. I would probably replace these boards because they're very noisy looking and you can't really define them from anything else here. Might want to go actually with just a like this, what the under the bark would be, the bare wood texture, rather than making it boards like they cut into the side of the tree, almost like a birdhouse or something. I shouldn't say like a birdhouse. My dad is a carpenter. He used to make birdhouses with hollowed out logs like that. But maybe something like that where it's just drilled in to the tree and they didn't just take it all out and then go over it with wood again. Think about how that would be. Like, It's a weird thing to put thought into. But if there was, who would live here? Maybe Smurfs or something. Oh, like woodpecker. Yeah. But like, who would actually build this in this fantasy universe? Would it be like gnomes or Smurfs or something like that? And what would they actually do in a situation like this? Now, they want to make a home out of a tree that's been hollowed out over years of rot and whatnot. So this little staircase, yeah, that's cute. But why is there a staircase going to up here and then a ladder from there? Why not the ladder all the way down? So maybe they ran out of wood. Maybe do something to incorporate that, or just give explanation for things a little bit more. This here, oh, that's actually kind of clever. I didn't notice that until just now, but that's because there's a little ridge there, and then that has to come out to reach there. So that's really clever. That's cool. It's cool that you explained that. But on the same thing, they would have to climb from this ladder onto a sloping staircase, which would be a little bit difficult, especially since you'd have to stand on this very thin board to open up the door. So that'd make it a bit difficult to get inside. So maybe pull that out as just a flat porch platform, and maybe put a little roof over it coming out from the tree so water doesn't pull up in front of their door. Just think about the details, like who lives here, who is this for. Also, this entire thing is leaning, isn't it? Yeah, that tree's leaning over. A bit strange, but works for the leaning tower piece, I suppose. The tree texture doesn't look quite right because I think it's a tiled texture, and it's not going off with these roots and stuff. Like, it's not actually changing based on the height of it. I think that's an elm texture, if I'm not mistaken. That elm is usually more brown or more gray as well than brown. It's procedural. Wow. Oh, and substance designer. Okay, that would have been interesting. I hate to say this, but I'm going to. Have you tried photo scanning a tree? If you photo scan the base of a tree, you would have to find one with a knot hole that you could use. If it just has the knot like that, you can model the rest from there. Just cut it out. But that could really provide the texture to wrap around that correctly. Because you gotta think that the knot hole's there because there was once a log there. So starting off, this would have to be a kind of tree that grows large limbs quite young. Apple trees, they'll do that. I think some maples will, not all. I think silver maple and stuff, those start growing limbs at about 9 feet. Let's see. At this width, ash trees, no. Poplar, no. Pine, no. Elm, no. Really, apple tree would be your best bet for a knot hole like this, I think. Because they can start growing knots on them really, really low. And they do break off and they hollow out like that. I've seen them at a park we used to have up in Ohio. There was a apple tree that had a big knot in it like that and had a bee's nest in it. And it was at like knee level. So no clue trees googling speed. Can I keep up? Yeah. So if you could photo scan, like look around your area and go on a walk out in nature or something, and try to find some trees that have some really low knots like that, and see if you can photo scan. It's really not hard to photo scan. Gleb Alexandrov has a tutorial on using all free software to photo scan. If you're into, I think Megascan is the best. Don't quote me on that. The best software right now for photo scan if you want to get paid software. I think it's like $150. I don't recall. But it might be something really worth looking into. To use a photo scan tree. just to get a much more natural feeling to the bark and stuff. It's something I really personally want to get into, photo scanning, because it really takes your work up to the next level. Additionally, huge props on the moss. That moss looks amazing on the base there. How it's climbing up like that. Very, very nice. Something that I noticed now is these leaves also feel very flat. Adding a little bit of transparency, and your lighting will need to work with that too, but giving them more vibrance and transparency so they come through would help a lot. Another thing is curly dock leaves don't typically grow on the sides of trees. So I don't know how much you know about plants, but those are curly dock leaves right there. Or at least they really look like curly dock leaves, and those are a ground plant. They have large root systems that go deep in the ground. They won't grow on the side of a tree. Although you got the scale about right, they can be a little bit bigger than that too. It's texture paint plus particles. That's awesome. Yeah, that's curly dock. Yeah, that won't grow on the side of a tree. Something that you could add, that I see a lot of, and that's something also, I mentioned you could put a roof over this. You could use turkey tail mushrooms, or really just any shelf mushroom that grows on the side of a tree like that. You could use as a roof, or I mentioned a balcony earlier. If you wanted to, you could put a one of those little shelf mushrooms. And turkey tail is an example that you can Google and find a picture of what I'm talking about. But there's a lot of different kinds of mushrooms that look like that. That's just the only one I know the name of. Yeah, it'll look like that, and it could provide a platform for the resident here to stand on when opening the door before he begins his voyage down the rope ladder you have here for him. Yeah. I will definitely work on the door and the color of the door, because I really feel like that should be your focal point. That's where your eye should go. Doors always, it's the entrance. It makes you feel welcome and whatnot. Opening it up a little bit will help. But you definitely need to change the texture of it. It looks like just a smaller version of this texture. So I would go with something, since you have curtains in there, they're not afraid of making things. So I would go with something that looks a little bit more handmade. Or on the flip side of that, you could go with something very clever and maybe he took a bunch of these sticks and like tied them together with some vines, and maybe that's what his door is made of. And you could also use maybe some leaves or curtains up here or something like that that makes it feel like it was more put together, things that he found and took out of woods. But then you have to question the light, because that is definitely electronic light, not a flame. And yeah, what's the deal here, bro? So yeah, that's pretty much sums that up. Why the little platform up here? Now, if you put maybe some barrels or maybe some things to populate this, as if it's like just storage, he's keeping it off the ground, maybe that could explain that platform. But otherwise, it just seems like a little bit more like he would just use the rope ladder that he made to get that extra ground. There's no point in having this platform here. I would have the rope ladder go up to a sort of balcony that he could stand on to open the door. And I think a mushroom there would work really well for that, but that's just my thoughts. Maybe some more mushrooms up here coming off the side of the tree to break it up a little bit. And yeah, that's about it. A really, really good looking scene. Very realistic feeling, while keeping it fantasy. Just make a couple adjustments to it. I think you got a really nice scene here. Next render. Let's see. I think this one is also by you. Yeah, Draken, whatever. I'm done. Means dragon. Yep, not worth. Whatever. Drunken seal. Crystals. First off, wow, on the ground and the plants around it, they could pass for a picture. Those are really, really good, especially this ground. Like, my God, that just looks so realistic. It's amazing. Unfortunately, I feel like the crystals aren't keeping up with that. And the grass isn't quite as good as the ground either. Just because there's a very harsh variation in this grass. Like, some of these leaves are dead, and then some are completely alive, and there's no transition between them. Which the dead leaves, they look like, as best as I can tell, they're very blurred out, but they look like real dead leaves. There's nice transparency and everything on them, and the live leaves look like actual live leaves. But the thing is why did these grass leaves die? The dead leaves looks like they've been sprayed with Roundup, but that would kill all of the leaves. And the live leaves look like they've been filled with nutrients and whatnot, and there wouldn't be dead leaves. So, yeah, I would sort of do less variation in the grass actually. And if you want to have dead and live leaves, put in patches. So it'd be like patches where there's less water, more water, where the leaves are dying and leaves are thriving. But putting that aside, since that is all blurred out in background, the crystals here definitely the focal point. First things my eyes go to, except my eye is very often distracted by, is this gold on the ground? Just bits and pieces of gold. That's fantastic. This crystal kills all the plants. That's why the rocks. Oh my God. Oh, that's actually really cool. Okay. So first off, starting with the story, then. That's really cool. I'm glad this has so much story. This needs to be in focus. And I would add shriveled leaves. I would use weight painting. I'm trying to think if you can actually do this. But weight painting to do a radial out from here to vary between two types of particles. One being dead shriveled, and on the outside being live particles. That should work if you do an inverse on density. And yeah. The very live grass being out here, this should be like all thriving grass, and then have like little tiny, and you'd want to model these individually, just have a handful of them, dead shriveled plants coming. The closer you get to them, and maybe even closer here, have burned looking ones, like they've been singed or something. And then as you get out here, let's see, if you use trying to think, you need to be able to like singe whatever is closest to the crystal based on like almost a sphere with a gradient to it. Trying to think of how I would do this. But I love the fact that there's actually a reason for all these dead leaves in here. That's fantastic. But definitely have some in here, because you have a very clean line right here where there's no plants and they've all died, to, okay, there's plants now, but they're unhealthy. A bit forest in the background, a tiny bit. Yeah, a little bit of smoke would be really cool. Go a long ways. How is these crystals killing the plants though? Are they pulling all the nutrients out of soil? Or are they burning them? They're like some sort of alien crystal, or like what exactly, how is it killing? Are they radioactive maybe, and it's poisoning everything near it? Magic. Yeah, so I would definitely add some plants, and then they'd be like really withered and flattened out here, and then they start getting taller but still withered and dead, and then just ease that out. And over here it'd be like all the plants are dead, withering, and then it just start getting more and more life as you go further and further away. If it's magic, then yeah, smoke could be pretty good. Um, yeah, a little bit of smoke like near this, and maybe at the end of some of these closer plants. Uh, I would also definitely add emission to the crystals because these crystals look almost like glass. I suppose that's the point of crystals, but they don't look like they're actually real crystals. Let's see. I remember a guy made a really cool procedural crystal in Blender. I think that his name was Masiak, and that was an art station. Don't fail me now, Google. Perfect, found him. Or did I? Pope. Yes. Alright. Copy image. But this isn't exactly what I was thinking of. But if you could do something a bit more like this to make it more crystallized, and then add some sort of glow coming from the base here to make it feel more magical or alien. Also, I'd probably go with a blue, or not blue, I'm sorry. Yeah, like a turquoise. But you do need to contrast with the green in this, so a pink would technically be the contrast. I'm not sure, or pink or purple. I'm not sure how well that would go against it. Tried to overdo it as I planned. Be dirty and rough. I took my reference. Yeah, you definitely got, like, this is definitely more realistic, but crystals, as far as I know, don't actually kill surrounding plants. So if you're going for magical, I would just go all out on it personally. So I think these were also sculpted a little bit to add this damage and crystallized look. But I can provide you an image because see, this guy shared the node setup he used for this, and I wouldn't copy it exactly, but I would take reference. Well, he may have just shared it on Facebook. It was made 3 years ago. It was by Anthony Pylon. Yeah, it looks like he took nodes down, which is unfortunate, but I will share it in the chat real quick. No, that's not a, Oh, okay. Nice. Let's see. Pull up the ArtStation link of it then. Okay, so the red version definitely has the emission I was talking about, but you don't really have any volume to the crystals themselves, so the emission kind of falls flat, I think. Yeah, doing the one like Anthony did, it has a lot of volume that you feel, and maybe sculpting it like that too helps a lot. But these are just things I think it would bring it. It's all volume emission. Yeah. Yeah, take it for what it's worth, but yeah, I would go with a bit more of a crystal material that like he had, and then definitely do the plants. In my opinion, having the dead and withered plants closer and closer and getting burnt and shrunk down and whatnot, and then pulling out away from that, going for the lively grass further away, Green grass on the horizon here. I love the jungle in the distance. That makes a lot of sense. And then more dead plants the closer you get to it. Yeah, for sure. Yep. Alright, so next render. Very good render there. That really looks really good. I think it has a lot of great potential. Next render is by you again. Alright, Kevin Lorangel. Or Draken Seal. Alright. This in here, both your other renders, they all sort of suffer from this, except the last one you did really good. I never really actually touched the lighting. The lighting is really flat on this though, actually. So, dang it. Thought I was done with this one. Nope. If I can learn how to use... Oh yeah. Definitely turning contrast up on this. That is a huge improvement, I think. That right there makes a big difference, I think. Yeah, in my opinion, turn up your contrast. That just pretty much fixes it automatically. Also, a vignette on this would look pretty good, I think. Let's try this. Well, that didn't work. Shift. Alright. Now someone's gonna have to teach me how to use. Alright. Put it down and multiply. Yeah, let's see. You may have actually already put a vignette on it. It kind of looks like there's already one there. So that might not really be necessary. But I think upping your contrast did really help. Oh, yeah, it has a vignette. Let's open the cluster. Yeah, okay. Monitor is very contrast set. That would make a lot of sense. Yeah. If you can invest in the IPS panel, or if you have a decent phone, I'd look at it on your phone, and that might be a bit more true in your monitor, because all of your renders sort of suffer from this lack of contrast. Not that one. Yeah, these all really suffer from a lack of contrast, and this just looks 100% better like this. So yeah, it being your monitor would make a lot of sense. Maybe turn the contrast down on your monitor. Trying to think. I saw a tool at one point to help you gauge your contrast and everything, but I assume you mean TN. I've never heard of TS panel, so yeah, definitely upgrade your monitor. It's important. This is actually a TN panel I'm viewing this on now, so let me drag this over on my IPS panel. Yeah, these are gauged the same. I set this TN panel up based on my IPS screen, so also showing you all my Windows icons there. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do with this now is up the contrast. Because that's... God. It's just like your renders instantly are way, way better. Just by upping the it's crazy the difference it makes. Your monitor has to be so old or just misconfigured, I guess, because this here looks really amazing now, but it's really bothering me how washed out it looks. We're gonna go around for a cheap color accurate monitor. I recommend BenQ, but I know they make really good color accurate monitors. I know they're in the mid budget. I don't know if they're cheap. That's what I have as a BenQ bike at like freak 5 years ago or something. I don't know. I just more like 3 years ago, I guess. Not cheap. Okay. Well, mine's 27-inch too, so it's a little bit overkill here. What should I ready to invest? Right. Yeah, then I would go with BenQ. They have some fantastic monitors. Mine is a GW2765. If you're interested in that, you can definitely. Actually, I can't completely vouch for it because now it's starting. When I put a light colored screen up, it will stain the monitor for an extended time if that screen stays up. So if like I have emails up, unfortunately, like the text on my emails will stain the monitor for like half an hour if I leave it up for a while. So I think that's because it's been in heat. It's been up past 100 degrees Fahrenheit here, so that's like insert dial-up sounds. I have no idea how to calculate that in Celsius. I'd say it's like 30 degrees Celsius, but I feel like that's way off. GW2765. That's GW2765. That's the monitor I have. That's a 1440p IPS display. It's decent. I really like it color-wise, but it does have that issue now. Ever since summers down here, we get down here in Florida, we get really hot and humid summers where it's over 100 degrees Fahrenheit and the humidity is like 80%, 90%. I have no idea. It's just really high, and the monitor's been suffering for that. So yeah, let's see. As far as the bottle goes and the wine glass, they look pretty good. Your shader there looks a bit like, it's less jarring with black like that. It looks a bit metallic rather than wine-like, and that's probably to do with, I'm guessing you use an HDRI instead of an actual environment here, which is pretty convincing, but also contrast even more. Good cut. It just makes it feel so much better. Though that might be a little bit overboard now, but alright. Yeah. The wine here looks a little bit metallic. The labels on, I'm never gonna learn. The labels on this also aren't a real black. They kind of look like clay. And on a wine bottle, I'm guessing they would be more of a almost a carbon textured paper with a real sheen to them, so to speak. Just a lot darker and sharper, less roughness. Maybe you got, there's not a lot of story here, it's just another typical wine bottle. There's a lot of background going on here, and though you have a depth of field, there's nothing really offsetting the wine bottle from the background. So maybe yeah, I should make more mistakes here and try to paint over this. Just paint all of this. Thinking if the background is just a little bit darker here. This is gonna end terribly. Professional roaster here. This is fine. This is fine. Yeah. Okay. Alright. Darken this. Oh my god. Mouse it is. Just maybe try and, jeez, try and pull that out a little bit. Because right now the background is the same color. It's a very monochromatic, but it's not effectively, because the value of it is also very similar. So if we pull out saturation on everything, there's not a lot of contrast in value here. We've got the same dark shadows here. God dang it. The same dark shadows here as we do here, and the same whites here as are here and here. I mean, there's not a lot of contrast in anything here. So I'd probably switch out the background altogether. Yeah, I'd probably switch out the background for something that can contrast with the bottles and make the bottles pop out a little bit more. Maybe add a little bit of stir as well. Maybe some spilled wine, or maybe this was a date gone bad or something. So maybe there's an empty glass over here that's spilled over or something, and some stained napkins on the table. This kind of looks like a rough cut table as it stands. So it kind of looks like an outdoor eatery sort of deal. So maybe just go into that a little bit more and put put a little bit a bit more pop into, or don't put more pop into wine. Make the wine pop out a little bit more is about the extent of what I can say there. Also, almost hour and a half in, and I've gone through 7 renders. Really bad at this. Alright, next render is by Captain J. This one confused me so bad. So this one was for the competition, right? What was the theme? So this was for chaos. And yet this reminds me of a dream. But maybe one where I'm smoking weed. I don't know. Catch you pour soda before break your toes. Okay. Inspiration from Rusted Wine Shop near my home. Okay. Yeah. I mean, think about how you would take a photo of that wine, and where would the differences lie? Maybe there would be, gosh darn it, the lighting and stuff. The background's gonna be considerably darker. You're gonna have a depth of field. I don't know. Like, where would you want to take a picture of this wine at in that wine shop? Think about how it would be set up. Why you taking a picture of wine? Is there something special about it? Is this like a product picture to advertise the wine? If so, maybe some fresh grapes here, or something to help advertise the wine a little bit more. Like when they advertise food, they always put like mint leaves and stuff by it to make it more appealing. So maybe some grapes and some things like that. If it's non-advertisement, then maybe give it some story. A bad day, a good day. Maybe there's some lip marks and some fingerprints on the bottle and the glass. Maybe this bottle's fresh out of ice and it's, I don't know if you keep wine on ice, but it's got some frost on it. I don't know. Maybe just explore with that a little bit more, because they're very clean as well. But all right, next render. Nose is getting all stuffed up. Alright, yeah, this one here, Captain J, it confuses me a lot. I don't know what to say about this. I mean, I'll start out with what really bothers me. The clouds. These are very sharp. It kind of looks like you took a mesh and just started pulling vertices randomly, really, really hard. And it's very jagged mesh. And then this in here looks like it's made of metaballs. Metaballs? Not meatballs, right? Yeah, it's metaballs. Then this in here looks like a cloud texture. And this looks like a weird cloud generator. And that looks like a... I mean, I guess this is really the definition of chaos as 3D render goes. Yeah, it is metaballs, okay. The whales, they look misproportioned. The lighting doesn't really do much for them, being how dark they are. Excuse me. It looks like you just have a diffuse map over here to the roughness turned up completely. So you plug the displacement texture directly into the displacement output. No. Material output displacement. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that just looks... There's so much variation. Like, these here look like they're out of Cloud with a Chance of Meatballs almost. Like, they're very stylized. These here look pretty real and believable. But it kind of looks like he used a magic wand to pull it Cloud out because it's missing all the smaller flares and fog that's around it. This here looks like a really bad, messy, chopped up mesh. That looks like that one. That looks like a picture of a nebula or something, some sort of galaxy of some kind. And then there's just like a gradient haze at the bottom here that doesn't make any sense. The whales, I think these are humpback whales. Or that there looks like a humpback whale. That looks like a blue whale almost, as far as I know. Very limited knowledge on whales, but why are there whales in the sky? Why are there stars over the clouds? And I don't know about chaos, but I would definitely dub this confusion. Let me do 7 more. I'm gonna do until there's no more, Luke. So yeah, I need to hurry up. Alright. Next one. I don't know what to say about this one. It's Captain J. This and just hurts my head too much. I honestly, I feel like this is something you saw tripping on something. I mean, and then execution, lighting. You could go for an abstract look with it. Like, you can make the idea work, I guess. Whales going out in and out of clouds. It could definitely be like an abstract piece. But you need to be more consistent with your clouds. The clouds should be much wispier if you're going for realism. The whales need more effort put into textures. And mostly the modeling. It's mostly a details thing on these whales. Because there's no specular that I see at all. And the sculpting, it's very large wrinkles, but there's no like small skin details and stuff, which I feel like could be really helpful to sort of bring it to life. I don't know enough about whales, but I would definitely get some reference to whales and start sculpting some finer detail into these and baking that. Think about what a whale's skin would be. Yeah, like, was the world's first swimming with humpback whales experiment. Google. So these have lots of detail. This is a humpback whale. They've got lots of detail on the end of their nose. It is a lot more than what's here. You have like probably a couple dozen little dots on here, but the actual humpback whales look like they have hundreds of dots that are also white and black all over their face through here. The eyes here aren't so big. The fins aren't so fat. The stripes aren't so wide. It looks like a humpback whale, and you took the blob brush to it. So I would just try to get a bunch of reference from different humpback whales, and just sit there and grind sculpt, like just sculpt it till it looks right. Because just get all those little details. Make sure your silhouette's still good. Like the fin, that's a big detail there. It's just too blocky. Your eye is too big. So get the silhouette down. That fin there is much further towards the back. It should be like right here, towards the back of the tail. And then I guess that's part of the fin. So that should be thinner too. Yeah. Alright. Next render. This one's cool. Nice stylized, let's see. Wrong channel. Nice stylized sword here by Lirum. Really like the hand-painted textures you did on this. As far as the sword itself goes, it's hard to say anything bad about this. This really looks good. Not sure exactly what you was looking for, but if you have like a very specific sword you was going towards, I could compare and contrast this to. But it really looks well done. Very detailed. Humpback whale model for reference. Yeah, you could use a humpback whale model for reference on the last one. But anyway, yeah, this really looks good. You got all these scratches and you got some breakup going on in this. Maybe the texturing goes maybe on the ends of these points, depending on how the sword is used. There's more wear and tear on the ends here. Going back on this than there is in other places, like here there wouldn't be as much wear and tear unless this is sheathed somehow where that rubs. Alright, see you, Kevin. Yeah, unless it's put in a sheath or something that rubs more, there'd be less wear and tear on that. A lot of wear and tear on this. These scratches wouldn't necessarily, they look cool like that, and with a stylized look, I don't think you really need to worry about this stuff as much. But if you're going for realism, maybe those scratches aren't there in particular. The scratches are more likely to be breaking through the blade than they would be scratching deep right there. Because it'd be more like this in here where another sword hit it and it notched the blade itself. Maybe a bit more grunge and dirt where blood or whatever is collecting in here and it's hard to clean out, so it just dries there. It's sort of brown. It looks like you started doing that with this, but maybe a little bit more accentuated in these areas. Maybe this handle, and this would be a hard change to make because you'd have to redo that texture a lot. But there's not a lot of grip right here where your fingers are going to be pinching into this. So maybe, like, depending on how big this is, right? Because look at the way your fingers, I mean, I guess that would work if the hand was like this sort of size. There's thumb going around on that side. And the grip it like this. But then the size of the person wielding it, I mean, it's a pretty big sword and it's gonna be really heavy. So maybe this is like an orc sword or something. I don't know, but it's fantasy, so it is up to you how that works. And maybe it's like Mjolnir, it's completely weightless to its owner. I'm not sure. All in all, really good render here. Your background's a bit lacking. Having a backdrop, I wouldn't go with one like this. I would have gone with a gradient. Or like a plain background behind it, or even rendered it on transparent, and then Photoshop just put a gradient behind it, or something like that. it just would have been a little bit cleaner. Having this background or that backdrop with that gradient there at the bend, it's a bit distracting, to be honest. Also, lighting wise, if you're trying to showcase the texturing and all the work you put into this is good lighting. If you're trying to get a certain look with this sword, then you go for a little bit more. It depends on what you're going for. Because if you're going for something, put your demo reel as a show of modeling and texturing, that's perfect lighting. You want to keep it flat. And it doesn't look like a bad flat light. It looks like it just makes everything well lit. And you have a little bit of rim light coming up here. So it's very clean looking. But you could also go with a more drastic, fantasized lighting setup. Again, colored rim lights and all that. But it depends on what you're going for there. So, next render. These renders are really good by Marcos Torres. It's time for me to start glossing over stuff though, because I am spending way too much time. Alright, so the eye immediately goes to him, which is great. That's the desire, or that's the intent here. But knowing the renders you posted earlier, I know I'm also supposed to be looking at this. But I'm just not. Like, I actually didn't notice that until I saw your other renders with that robot in it. And then I looked back and I'm like, oh wow, that robot's there. Well, okay, he's supposed to actually be finding him in this scene. And I'm actually just kind of bouncing my eye between this bird and the person. A very monochromatic color scheme here, which I really like. You do have blues here to contrast with the reds, but they're so overpowered and the blues are so weak, they don't actually play any role in contrast. Instead, they just kind of get blurred into the background. So nice, a lot of stuff back here. Like, that looks sort of painted in. That is a strange artifact looking silhouette back here. But I love the different details in the trash. Like, here's a pool ladder, just a swimming pool ladder, just randomly chilling back here. At least I think that's a swimming pool ladder. It does, having all these big details in here, does sort of point out the fact that this looks like a single mesh with a trash can's texture on it. And then these things, it really stands out when this box is filled with trash cans, but it's in the same line. So you can see you just put that in there. You didn't actually boolean it out or anything. So it doesn't intersect with the trash cans. Trash cans aren't actually reacting that much to junk around them. The larger bits and pieces, like, they're not building up on it and stuff. But your focus here, as long as you're not staring at the scene for too long, the focus being this kid here, I mean, it really just drowns out all that. I imagine if this is an animation, given the other renders I'm thinking it is, the fact that you don't see this robot right now is fine, because I'm guessing he walks over to it and finds it. But as a still render, let's see what happens if we bring up contrast. Let's see, not too much. Bring up the contrast a little bit. I'm thinking maybe a little bit of a rim light on the robot here. And a bit more rim light, because all the lights come from back here anyway. So if you put more light on the silhouette of the kid and the robot, and just those two things, just really insinuated the brought out the details, and I think it could bring it a bit more to life and bring more focus to these two. You do have your line of sight going from there. Well, the line of sight right there is actually more towards the ground. It's not actually looking at the robot yet. So you can't quite follow the kid's line of sight. The gun sticks out really nicely. The handle looks a little bit small, but it's a small kid on the AK-47 there. Not a whole lot bad to say about that. It's really good looking render. You put a lot of time into it, clearly. Maybe it was a team project as well. I'm not sure. I don't think you wrote anything about it. No, just here we go. Alright, next render. This is another one by HP 2009. Love the lighting in this. Leather really good. Blue to yellow contrast. Not sure about the guy riding in the dark on a bicycle. The silhouette of that guy looks good, but there's not enough silhouette on that guy for me to notice immediately, but once I do, he brings more questions than anything. So I'd probably get rid of him. There's no lines on this road, no sidewalks. So this is all a bit confusing. It's like there's no details on the road. That's actually something the building suffer with. There's no actual divider right here, like some trim or something. Pillar that would be on the corner of this building is a structural divider. There's just a transition between the two brick textures, with no physical, just a texture transition, no modeled transition there. It lacks a lot of details, and it really just looks like a lighting practice because of that. Your textures on your windows, they're just reflecting the HDRI you used. This here looks like you used a texture, but it's very flat. Can't really see, pardon me, what's going on in there. There's no details really modeled on any of the windows. The textures are overly glossy on that. The road being as glossy as it is looks fine because it's wet. There's no lights hanging up here, no wires. Just general city details, things that you'd find in a city. I would think you'd include them in here, but there's really none of that. So fantastic job on the lighting, but you definitely need to work on more of the details like wires and telephone poles and sidewalks and road markings and stuff like that to make it feel more realistic, and details in the windows and stuff as well. Structural details, and just go out and get a bunch of reference pictures online or in person, and then just model those props and stuff, and I think it'll bring a lot more life into the scene and make it a lot more realistic. Moving on, another render by Marcus Torres. Here we go again. Okay. The first thing I noticed is the posture on this one is very robotic. It's, god dang it. His pose looks very unrealistic. It looks like he's pulling a wagon with presumably hundreds, if not thousands, of pounds of metal in it, and he's just doing it like it's really easy. So there's two things here. All the weight is at the back of the wagon on this side of the wheels. Okay, so he's going to be having to push down a lot. Yes, there's some things here, but they can't possibly be as heavy as this stuff. So he's going to be having to push down a lot out here. So that means not taking two hands off, and he's going to need to be leaning over it. Now you could push this stuff more over top the axle of the wagon and fix that problem, but he's still pushing a giant wagon over a really rough terrain here. I mean, it's very unrealistic to have a kid this size pulling that. But if he could, he would be straining a lot more, not pushing it casually with one arm half bent and the other arm waving, you're gonna see you can see a lot more strain in pushing that. His legs will be digging into the dirt, taking smaller steps. Unless he was going downhill, then he'd be just trying to keep up with it. Yeah, you just see a lot more struggle. I do love the attention to detail in this, though. I love the stylized chickens here. And just the style of everything, the haze, and the overall mood and feel of it. It looks fantastic. And this is something, this excels story-wise. Because this has a lot of story. Like, it's a very classic story. What was the movie where the kid brought home the robot and it boxed for him? It was in a fighting rink. But yeah, it reminds me a lot of that. So it's really well done story wise, but you do need to think about the kid is only 9-10 years old, 100 pounds, a baby, pulling a cart that big. How much is he going to strain? How far can he actually pull it? Also, in what country do you have to have a license plate on a wagon? That's an actual question, by the way. Is that a thing somewhere? But great background props and details. Really love this style. Little silhouette of a guy up there. I'm not sure if I would have that. I never noticed that, so it's not distracting as I would think it would be. But it kind of looks random and strange up there. But it is nice to see that there's people in this. Composition wise, he is on this, like the center of the screen is like right here, and he's on this side facing this way, so it does feel a little bit claustrophobic, in the sense that you never want to have your character facing in the direction where there's more, or there's less screen. You want, if he's facing this way, he needs to be on this side of the screen. So it's not a huge deal in this because he's centered and he's sort of pulled away from the camera, but it might be worth panning over that way a bit more. Although the natural vignette you're getting from these pieces of metal and stuff, it's very nice. Alright, next render. This in here is by an active terrainer. Alright, Caleb. I'll be honest, I thought this was a screenshot from Skyrim or something when I first saw it. So lighting wise, this looks fantastic. It does look very real time, like video gamey. When I first saw it, and it really has that look to it with the flat plains for your leaves and stuff. And the really drastic pink sky over really jagged mountains and everything. That it does have that video game look and feel to it. Critique wise, fantastic job on that bark. That bark looks amazing. That's gotta be a photo scan of some kind. The grass is all the same, which is a strange pink topped grass I've never seen before. It has a warm wintry feeling to it all. These breakups here don't look like footsteps or anything. It looks like it's just melting, but it's also melting in a strange and very steep pattern because it's just dropping straight off like it would if it was stepped in, but those aren't the patterns of footsteps or anything. It's just a bit strange there. A nice natural vignette. There's no real focus here. Your eye just kind of goes straight into the sun. It follows this little trail and then lingers up into the sun. So having someone come around this would be nice. Have like a hiker come around the corner here or someone hunting. Yeah, grass could be more translucent. Everything feels like it's low poly in a sense, except for like pardon me, except for the trees and the rocks and stuff. Those don't feel as a little poly, but yeah, this is a bit strange. I feel bad. I need to prepare for all this more and take some notes on all the renders, but there's a lot of them and I need to move through these. So that's about all I can say about that. Maybe some more, maybe a vignette on it and a bit more contrast, but it definitely needs a focal point because right now it's lacking that. Overall, you do have a video game-esque feel to it. If you're going for that, then spot on. If not, it comes in large part to these plants being flat, and as David Nicholson said, not a lot of translucency in the grass. Alright, my favorite render so far from Marcos Torres up next. This has a lot more story to it. Things that really stick out to me are the arm is one, it looks very fake in 3D, and for two, that crease right there definitely sculpted over and edited up a bit. Also, the eye you left flat shading on. It might have been an artistic choice, but I don't particularly agree with it. I love the mood of the scene. The sparks, they look so good. The haze, the smoke. Details wise, like there's so many things. Like these lights aren't really modeled properly. Fluorescent lights should be closed caps, and the way the bulbs work, you just like put an emission on a cylinder. But you got the mood and like what was going on across so well. Also, starting to notice a theme with this, and holy crap, that dog is realistic and scary. What is that dog doing there? That dog looks like a picture. Like, I never even noticed it. It doesn't match with anything. I would remove him. Like, he is super realistic. This is a very not so realistic. It's very stylized scene. Wrong tab. Yeah, I love the look and mood of this all. It's like he brought this into someone. I'm not sure what's going on with the cyborg head. It doesn't look like it should. It doesn't look like this guy's a cyborg. It looks like it's a welding helmet he's wearing. But it's very sci-fi and also doesn't look anything like a welding helmet. I don't know the whole movie or story you're going with here, but personally, I would just put a welding helmet on this guy. He looks like a welder. He's got a lot of tattoos. Big burly looking dude. I'd fix the arm there and just put a regular welding helmet on him. And do some cool reflections of the glass on the welding helmet. This kid, looking out the thing, I noticed now he doesn't have a gun strap on. Rifle strap. So that gun just got glued to his back. So definitely need to put a strap back on that. That's like my favorite render so far. Remove that freaking dog though. God, that thing is scaring me now. It just looks like it's there to haunt you. Like, it's an adorable looking dog, but it's way out of place there. If it's part of the story, then I would make it look much more stylized, like the chickens and this robin here. Yeah. Also, I'm getting a sort of, this is an Africa theme from this. Like the red tones of the desert and everything. I might be wrong, but it feels like it's not in the Saharan desert, but it's in that sort of area. And they don't have American robins there. So if I'm wrong on the area, then that's a lighting issue. Like, Mexico has a very yellow light. When you look in the Mexican desert, it's always very yellow. In American desert, it's got blue tint to it. African desert's always red. And that's, I'm sort of getting that vibe from the junkyard and stuff. Well, there is a lot of blue in there. I don't know. I feel like this is somewhere in the Saharan Desert or just outside of it, but I could be wrong about that. Moving on. Alright, this render, beautiful gun render by Wisdom. Love the smoke coming out of the end of it. It doesn't. Okay, so smoke actually looks really good. It doesn't happen like that, but it's a good artistic license effect. Strange for that to be a 9mm, but okay. Rolling with that, assuming this is a real gun, the things that I'm looking at here are, where's the wear and tear? Is this a brand new gun? If it's a brand new gun, then okay. It's got like smudges and fingerprints and stuff on it without actually having obvious fingerprints, which I really like. Although on a metal I would put actual fingerprints. The made in Germany, that would definitely contour with that the shape of the clip here. MP5, and it's a real gun. Okay, cool. Thank you, David. Look this up then. That way I don't look like a total buffoon. Oh shoot, that's a cool looking gun. Alright. Let's see. How would that... These are interesting. Are all these flat on the side? Looks... No, I guess not. We'll let the switch there. These all have 2 options. Okay, here's one with 3. I'm not seeing any with 4 options, but given these have 3 on some of these, I'm guessing you had a reference that 4 options for the switch here. Okay, so this is gonna come down to, since the gun looks like it's all modeled correctly and everything, it's gonna come down to textures. Because I can't really judge anything else. As a new gun, this looks great. It's something that's like in a gun shop, where people have had the opportunity to touch it a bit, pick it up and feel it. This looks really good. But is that the story you're going with on this? God, you actually nailed that. Pretty close, depending on what... This here is sort of a softer stock. I'm seeing a lot of stippled plastic, which isn't what that looks like. But then again, I'm finding a couple of these where it looks like it's rubber coated stock, which is what this looks like. So I guess it really... I can't even critique that, because that's pretty accurate to like a stippled rubber coated stock. Wouldn't be my choice, but they exist, so can't complain about that. And you got the seam going ahead. Are you kidding me? Good God, the details, like little threads on this. Whew. You didn't miss a beat on this. If you did, I'm not enough of a... I don't have enough knowledge on guns or textures apparently to say so. That all looks so clean. Yeah, it just gonna come down to what story does this have, I guess. If it's in a gun shop, it's had the opportunity to be touched a bit. Maybe it just hit the firing range a couple times. This is good. It's not that interesting, but as a showcase of a gun model, it looks really good. And I'd say you could go with more dramatic lighting, but ultimately, if you're showing off the model, you need to have lighting that shows off details, and this lighting does that very well. I would add a rim light just because rim lights look awesome. And it won't take away from anything, but I would highlight a rim light coming from this direction and or this direction, just to bring a silhouette across all this. Would look pretty good. It would pull it off the background a bit more. but it's not really having any problems with that because it's quite a bit brighter than your background already. So yeah, you could do some wear and tear on it, make it look like it's been fired a bit more. That would include like residue, sweat residue, or on the trigger up here, sweat might collect from firing a lot, or maybe the finger was worn off some of the protective coating on the metal there. Maybe this here has been smoothed out where it's stippled rubber. It's been smoothed out by having a hand grasp it there. You do like the knuckle imprints and stuff. But there's not a lot you can do with this. This looks really amazing. You've done a fantastic job. The smoke is definitely too bright, too much contrast there. You drop the opacity by half. That smoke when a gun's fired doesn't really look like that. That smoke that you're seeing there typically is from burning oils out of a new gun. If you see like that, it's because the friction, it'll burn the oil and stuff, and it could cause a little bit of smoke like that occasionally. But it's never that heavy. So, yeah, that just looks really awesome. Good job on that. Next render. Check Discord. Alright, here's my laser cat. We've got, oh my god, there's so many more renders. Alright. Here's my laser cat. Ortho with Archivist. Alright, so you updated this actually. So I'm just gonna go over the updated one. And you actually did a lot of huge improvements on this in this render. My god. Yeah, that's just a huge upgrade. It goes from looking like a bit of a SketchUp scene to looking much better. But there's still some things that you can improve. Alright, so the background probably could be a little bit of depth of field on that. This is too glossy. The metal could definitely use some fingerprints. To simplify what I'm going to say so we can do this as fast as possible, think about how everything is used on a daily basis. Assume that it's being used a bit and think about where it's going to get wear and tear. And not just being like, don't go put holes in your couch and stuff. I just mean think about where people are grabbing this refrigerator handle, then put more fingerprints there. Where people are putting their magnets up on the fridge, where people are sitting down, maybe there's some small scuffs and scratches in the floor that you can't even really see. As far as design wise, I feel like this could exist as it is. Maybe there'd be more contrast in the cabinets. Whether it be black candles or maybe some mix and match colors on the cabinets, black and white. You go for very monochromatic black and white on everything. The drawer here kind of sticks out because it's the most saturated thing in the room aside from these, which also I would remove those green plants. Their plants are always good to bring into the scene, you should. But those, I can't really tell what they are or where they are. These ones might be okay. But they're at the side too, and it's just the only saturation I'm seeing in this, and just pull my eye over here. So some depth of field that would take out the background a little bit, some of the foreground. I would put my focus over here. As a scene, oh god, I'm so stuffed up. This is not good. Yeah, right in time, laser cat. Laser car. As a scene, you need a focus point here. But as an Archivist image, is just advertising Archivist. The kitchen itself is the focus. So it's okay, I guess. But if you're making this into a render more than just a regular Archivist shot, then maybe add something on the counter to look at. Maybe a bouquet of roses or something. Maybe something to really pop out. Bouquet of roses would be really good because it'd be the only saturated thing in the room. You could put some lighting over, maybe a ceiling light over top, and it's hanging over that with a little note saying "I'm sorry" or something, or "I love you," and that would just bring life to the room and give the whole room a sense of feeling, like a romantic feeling or apologetic or whatever. But it invoked a lot of emotion. Say never do a depth of field dark with. Who says that? Who says that? Bring them to me and let me slap them for a little bit, because depth of field isn't everything except environment renders. Then you don't put that. Depth of field often creates a misused sense of scale in environment renders. So if you're doing a mountain scene and you have a lot of depth of field, it'll make it feel like a miniature. In ArcViz, it can be very useful in some senses. It can be way overused. Oftentimes it is, but in like this, you've got some things that are really close in the foreground. And then there's 12 feet of blank space here, and then you've got more stuff. And you want to focus on this stuff. So you need to do something to make these stick out less. Depth of field, very light depth of field, could help with that a lot. ArcViz community, as ArcViz is for showing off the interior, true. It depends on what the ArcViz is for. Like actually, if you're if you're taking photos of a scene or of in a real life scenario, if you're trying to sell a house or something, then yes, but you're also not really going to go for a shot like this. Maybe you'd bring the camera in closer to the kitchen. I don't know. That's like, you're not entirely wrong there. Maybe you're not wrong at all. I really like depth of field. Maybe I'm just a little bit overly biased towards it. And it can definitely be overdone. Also, something before I forget to mention it, this is too glossy. It's way too reflective. It looks like a mesh issue here, but I see that the shape of this goes down like that. Which, get some reference for that if you don't already, because usually those go like that. You want more cover space over top of the stove. Those usually cover the entirety of the stove. It's good for ArcViz, yeah. You said 15mm at the moment. Yeah, 15's pretty. Alright, so you got a farm sink there, man. That's still a bit strange. Your metal shaders are all a bit overly glossy, but that can be helped if you just add some spray color maps, things like this. Your roughness is too low on. Up the roughness, and then also add scratches or something really light. Think about how it actually look in real life, but definitely do that. Your couch also looks very comfortable. It's very square. I would recommend sculpting those cushions a bit, make them more comfortable, puffier and whatnot, and then also scale down that texture a little bit, especially where it's stretching on these corners and stuff. Alright, next render. Ooh, I need to get through this. I need to do something about stuffy nose, congested sinuses, whatnot. Alright, good looking render here by HP 2000? No, JC. Okay, crediting the wrong people. My bad. Couch is choose couch comfortable. Alright, good lighting. I like the warm to violet. This is a very red to violet, as opposed to like yellow to blue. And I like that. It's got a nice feel to it. The sun, I mean, it's not bad. It just feels like it's a raw image or something, like it's looking through sunglasses, because there's no glare and stuff coming off the sun. There's I mean, the sun here is the focus too, and that's a bit problematic because the sun's just a circle, but my eye is going straight to it. I appreciate all the detail you put into the curvature here. This looks really, really amazing. But I think the sun should probably be like a bit bigger maybe, and like on the horizon. Maybe not unrealistic. Oh my god. Oh my god. Maybe something like that. And like on the horizon with some glare coming out. And then maybe do something out here on the water. Like a boat will look really cool. Have a boat in the sunset. Empty rowboat. Just sit out here. You put a purse in it. It's going to be a lot of extra work to put a purse in it. But that would be pretty sweet to have something like that. Apologize for your ears. That probably didn't sound too good there, but yeah, if you could put an empty rowboat or someone in a rowboat there, that'd be pretty good. Charlotte. Yeah. All right. You give a focus point in this, probably drop the sun to add glare. That's my critique on that. Gotta keep moving. Of course, someone submits an animation. Wait, believe me. Oh god, this is pretty amazing if I knew what was going on. Asteroid drill? What is an asteroid drill? It's playing at like 10 FPS. It's just kind of emitting fragments there. Okay, so the first thing you really need higher FPS because you can't tell if those are actually rotating or what. The fragments don't appear to actually be shooting out of that. So what I would do with these is give all the fragments like a spiral where it's coming off of each individual one. Each rotor here needs to have its own particle systems coming out of it to send the fragment off like this in the direction that these are turning from. Definitely find some reference for these drills, like animations of them or videos of them in real life, because I know they use these for like drilling mines or something, or at least they did at one point. I remember seeing one of these machines at one time. It had like the drills where they could do that. It was like, wow. But yeah, find some video of those in action, see how the fragments, how big those fragments are and how they spiral out. But that's where I would start on that. Pretty cool animation though so far. Moving on. And that was by WST in Discord. Next one's by Birdie Bronze. Birdie, I can't critique this, buddy. I don't know what it is. I never have. Know what your profile picture is. I don't even know what shape that is. I don't know what you did to this poor shape. I'm sorry, I just can't critique that. I have no idea what it is. It's a cube. That's blood artists are getting too. Asteroid drill is. Wow. Alright. I'm gonna have to look up asteroid drilling. I'm gonna have to learn how to spell asteroid too. The hell? These things are real? No, these are renders. Oh my god, these are for breaking up asteroids. Wait, are these actually real though? I've never heard of such a thing. What the hell? Okay, that's pretty cool. Wow. That's like a NASA space program or something. So asteroids gonna hit the Earth. Like, nope, they aren't. Dang it, David. All right, let's see. What's this next one by WST? Okay, first problem with it is the gay pride flag. Take that out. It's a good cherubim. The hair is kind of strange. Wings look like they're cloth. And the body looks like it's made of very see-through clay. Like it too much subsurface on it. But yeah, it's a bit strange. I don't know why the hell you need to have a gay pride flag around a cherubim's leg, but whatever. So, yeah, man. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm just not a fan of having political propaganda in these, so I'm gonna leave this one as it is and move to the next one. Oh, alright, well that's it. Wow. It only took 2 hours. Alright, so on that note, go back to one of these. There we go. Yeah, I guess that's the end of the stream then. I do want to mention again, if we want to start doing this on Twitch again, I'm going to have to make a new Twitch account for this, but would it be worth it to go back and start streaming these on Twitch instead? Did you guys prefer it on Twitch? Like, is it less buffering maybe? I mean, it's easier on the internet, but I know we had 500 and some Twitch followers, and we've got 76 on YouTube, so we've been doing YouTube 3 times longer now. So, yeah, I thought everyone had a Google account, so YouTube would be a better platform anyway, and it was an easy way to cover up the fact that I straight up screwed up and lost the login for Twitch. But alas, I think Twitch was a more popular streaming platform. Just not really sure why. See, competition is getting new rules tomorrow. Going be implementing them after the voting takes place. So I guess it'll really come into effect on Monday. If you guys want particular prizes, message me with them. As in add-ons and stuff that I can redistribute over and over. I need to contact creators. JC has offered a parallax displacement shader. He's selling on Blender Market as a prize. So basically, I'm going to be buying the first copy of the prize. I need to okay with the creators. I can redistribute it after the first copy is purchased. But yeah, new rules coming into competition. Competition is now going to be a bi-weekly competition. It's going to be lasting 2 weeks. So you have 2 weeks to work on entry instead of 1. And yeah, we're going to reset all the superior victors too. So anyone who's a superior victor now will lose that role, and they'll have to re-earn it in the next cycle. With all new roles, we're going to be a lot more lenient on software. So using Substance and ZBrush, that's all going to be allowed now. So yeah, it's we might be doing a new way of picking themes too. Not sure. That's up in the air still. So we'll see how that goes. As far as that goes, I think that's about it. Hope some of this advice has been helpful, although 90% of it was me sitting here looking at my screen saying so that's that. Definitely next time I do a stream, I'm getting the dial-up sound effects just non-stop. But alright, that's it. See you guys in the next one. I think Derek's doing the stream after this one next week or whenever there's 10 or more entries in Render Roast submissions. Peace.